Another thing. I never said I grew up rich. Did I grow up around wealthy people or affluent people? Yes. But I also grew up with really poor people as well. So I love how the surveillance that's gone on in the last 9 years. So I've grown up with all different walks of life, although it still depends on, well, if my grandfather Reginald George Purdy had have had his daughters doing what he wanted, they wouldn't have never been around those people. Let me just say this, because he did go to his grave really upset with his three daughters. He had high hopes for mum. Okay, I'm not gonna. Sure, I'm sick of this. Everything I'm gonna say anyway is gonna be twisted to something that's not by my mother and her sisters and my ex-partner Giovanni. Doesn't nothing I say, even though it's the truth, is going to be taken as the truth. It's going to be twisted into some mental health, like, oh, psychotic breakdown. No, I didn't have a psychotic breakdown. What I've said is the truth, and I love how fuckwits on both sides have twisted this. So no, Uncle Fred. Okay, so my nan Lola said that her her family were wealthy, and even Pop said, yeah, that's true. His family weren't. And Nan's like, this is what she goes. Well, I studied to be a clerk. So before we had kids, I was a clerk, and she worked in Glebe, and Pop was a butcher. So, but Nan was when Nan was a clerk, Pop was still working in a gas station. He hadn't finished it, like studying to be a butcher yet, or finished his apprenticeship, whatever it was. So Nan was like, she had a good income. She had a good job. A clerk back then was like an accountant today, Nan said. So I'm not going to be lied about by mental health or my mother and that trying to be low life and working class when even Nan turned around to mum several times and said, oh, shut up, Carol. No working class people grew up riding horses. You went to ballroom dancing and tennis lessons. No working class people have ballroom dancing and tennis lessons. Nan was sick of it. She says working class people aren't like your grandfather's got a your father's got a trade. Like Nan was like Nan's mother. Nan got the shits with this because Nan was like, okay, her mother, my big Nan, my great grandmother, was a seamstress. That was a good job. Her father was a jockey. Okay, that was a good job until he broke his back and could no longer be a jockey. Um, Nan herself was a clerk, and Nan married a butcher. Nan always said that she came from a very affluent family. They were wealthy. Her grandmother was from Well, she said she used to go and visit her grandmother in Bellevue Hill. I don't. I think her grandmother was from maybe from Wellington, I don't know. But her grandmother's sister lived in Bellevue Hill, and that's where Tommy, Nan's uncle, Tommy Williams. So you've got, so not the Williams on my dad's side, the Williams on my mother's side. So you've got Nan's, and my mother keeps making shit up. Like I don't care. That's going too far back for me. If my Nan Lola was here now, she'd slap Carol across the face. She's a cunt. She did bash me growing up. She was a child abuser, but people have tried to make this up. I would have trauma from that. I don't have trauma to it. Because you think that I was close to my mother. I looked at her and thought she's a low life piece of shit that just abused me. I don't have trauma to these things that people would think I have trauma to. And that's what's so wrong with these idiots. It's like, but I don't have trauma to that. I look at that person and laugh at her and think, well, I'm a Roman Catholic and you're going to burn in hell. And I still socialized with my mother because, well, I had no choice but to because I was close to my grandmother. Like, yes, you did. Like, this stuff that I've said is true. So I'm not going to be not true. And it was for a period of time as well. And yeah, she changed with her second husband. She also then had low life boyfriends. So my mother ended up went from my father, who divorced her, to her second husband, Mark Rackley, to a deadbeat after that, which is Dave, to another deadbeat, to another deadbeat, to another deadbeat. So I look at this and it's like, oh, God, you know, you're an idiot. And my grandfather, Reg, so mum's father, Reginald George Purdy, always wanted my mum to be like Nan's family, Nan's mother's family. So Nan, like, oh, because so Pop, Reg adored, my grandfather could not stand his mother. Couldn't stand his mother. So that's Lillian still. Couldn't stand his sister, which is Valerie Purdy. Couldn't stand her. I didn't speak to Val. And she married in Evans, so became Val Evans. Couldn't speak to Val. Didn't speak to Val for 40 years. Anyway, and my pop Reg always said, like, oh, your nana's family. You know what your great grandmother like, big nan's like. You know what your big nan's like. And then Big Nan's mother was probably, well, not probably. Big Nan's mother was just as beautiful as she was. So, Julia. So Julia Sayer, and then Julia's mother, which is Bridget Dufresne, and Pop loved him. Pop was hoping that he would have a daughter that was like his wife's family, and he was hoping that was Mum. Like when Mum was married to my dad and she was a paralegal, he was so happy. As soon as they separated, and he's like, "That's it." Like I can tell you, I've had so many heart to heart conversations with my pop at 2 o'clock every morning. Pop used to get up at 2 o'clock, turn the TV on, and then we put SBS on, and I used to hear him. I used to come down the hall and we used to get up and chat. And he was so upset. Like I watched my pop in his later life, sitting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you could see he would have the TV on, and he would be so upset. I mean, I saw my grandfather cry. Reg cried. Pop cried to me. Especially when I was moving to Manly in February 2001, Pop cried. He cried. Like he lived his life looking at, and I don't give a shit as well. Okay, you want to know why I can't stand his sisters? I can't. Sorry, you know why I can't stand his daughters, my mother and her sisters. I did sit with Pop every night. Used to wait for that TV to come on. You could hear Pop walking down the hall. I used to get up, put the kettle on, go get a packet of Smith's Crips out of the cupboard, get a chocolate, get it up. We used to peel the skin off the apple. We used to always go, that box, pull the box out. Let's go for the documents. He was so upset about how his daughters turned out. He was upset. And you know what he did? So Pop does not care about, like, Pop isn't homophobic. He's not a racist. Like, his daughters, my mother's made up so much shit. Oh, God, she's made up so much shit. They're not racist. He wasn't racist. He wasn't homophobic. Like he said to me, he said, I know, like he said, you're not moving out because you're gay. I know you're gay. Like Pop was fine. I don't know what it was always, I don't know what my daughters have told, I don't know what my daughters have told you, or those three have told you about me. And Pop would tell me straight from him. So I take from the horse's mouth what Pop said to me. Because I know Marianne, even when I came out, Dad wouldn't agree with that. It's like, no, you don't know Marianne, but you don't agree with it because you're homophobic, Marianne, but your dad's actually not. So Pop actually said, your Uncle Fred's gay. And, your nan's uncle, your Uncle Fred, well, he is gay, and Uncle Fred's like my best friend, so therefore my best friend's gay. That's what he said. That was back in 2001. He said that. So Pop used to always, I saw a different side of Pop than what anyone else saw. They saw the tough side, the hard side. I saw the soft side. It was really nice. But that's why, I got so close to Pop when he was older that it was so nice to see the real soft side of Pop. Like my mother and her sisters didn't. And he said to me, why they believe that I'm, I don't accept gays because I don't accept Jeff Burgess. And it has nothing to do with him being gay, Justin. And that's what he said. He didn't like Jeff at all. He did not like Jeff, and that had nothing to do with him being gay. It had to do with the family he came from. That's what Pop said. It has to do with the family that Jeff Burgess come from, and I don't want my daughters hanging around that. But then in the same breath, I don't like Yanni's friend, that Julie. And the same thing. And I've sat with Nan, and Nan's like, oh, well, tell him, and she'll start talking about Sue, Karen O'Brien's mother. Like, Nan told me stories about Sue, Karen O'Brien's mother. And I'm like, and they came out of Nan's mouth, you're not gonna call Lola a liar. And I can tell, and if they want to keep going, I can bring up everything. Because I always sat with my grandparents and they told me. Who else was it that he liked that they hung around with? Because I remember some of the arguments was like, Pop was like, we should never have moved. Nan's like, rubbish. Justin, you couldn't give the place away when we moved here in the 60s. And that's where Nan used to get the shits about how Mum would carry on. She goes, Justin, the city was the slums. The city was the Bronx, Nan used to say. Balmain was the Bronx. This was a beautiful new subdivision. You were somebody. That's what Nan said, Lola. And you're not calling me a liar. Even people like Gio should remember how Nan would say this. Balmain was the Bronx, and you were somebody to move to these new suburbs. These were brand new subdivisions. You were somebody to move here. In the 1962, when your father, that's how Nan always said your father, but it's my grandfather. In 1962, when your father and myself moved here, it was, we had air conditioned shopping centres. This was beautiful. This is a brand new suburb. There was somebody to live in the suburbs. You've got to remember this was the 60s. You were nobody living in the city then. And that's what Nan was saying. So when they moved out from the inner city suburbs and they moved to Blacktown in 1962, like, and Nan said, like, your mother had ballroom dancing and tennis lessons. She had horses. That's not working class. Anyway, so I've never said that I grew up wealthy. Never said my grandparents were wealthy. This is where my mother has done her little show and dance, manipulating mental health organisations in the last 9 years because it's another form of abuse. It's an organisation she can manipulate for abuse. And I look at her, I look at her sisters, Nan's daughters, and I just keep remembering back going, okay, Lola, control your daughters. Reg, I can't control them as much as you control the weather. They're just making up shit. Nan, never said Nan and Pop were rich. They weren't. But like Nan said, her family, her side of the family, her mother's side were affluent. Like your big Nan was a seamstress. Her father was a jockey. There's clerks right through the family. Apparently, Nan's grandfather was a clerk. I'll have to find that out as well. Actually, I think might be there on one of the documents I've got from Nan. So yeah, there's clerks. Nan became a clerk. She studied to be a clerk. So my nana, and it's actually there on her documents when she was married. She was still a clerk. So she was a clerk. I think her grandfather was a clerk, but there was a lot. So what I've said is the truth. I never tried to make others rich or anything like this, but the way I have grown up is the way I have grown up. So why does that have to be rich? That's just two working people that are middle class people that have jobs that pay for what we had. I mean, look, if my dad didn't leave, so if my mother didn't get the house and everything in the settlement or the divorce, I would not have had the lifestyle I had. So you can say that, well, that's because my dad was a builder, okay, and my mother was a paralegal. Because if the divorce didn't work out the way it did, then there's no way I would have had the lifestyle I had. There's no way at all. But because the divorce worked out the way it did in Mum's favour, that's why we had the life that we had. Because the divorce worked out good. That's why. So, it could have gone, different. What could have happened was, the house could have been sold and they would have got equal parts out of the house, which meant we would have had to move, and Mum would have made money from the house and so forth. That's just the way it is. But I'm not going to have everything twisted to be sinister, be lied about, just so people can inflict. And it's bullying. It is actually bullying me. And it's no different to how I've grown up with those women. It's bully behaviour. It's bully. And they bully men, and a man will say something like, oh, and that way they talk, oh, like this is like, oh, shut up, Richard. Oh, this. It's like they treat men like shit. It's bully. They're just bullies. It doesn't mean I don't. Well, like I said, Marianne, if she wanted to really help, I asked for a solicitor when I was getting lied about. She said no. So I was like, okay. All I want to do is correct, restore my credibility before this gets out of control. So if you can't do that, then you know that this is going to hurt me and cause me damage. So how could you say you love me as my auntie? If you know that something's causing somebody severe damage and it's now caused me severe damage for 9 years with this bullshit behaviour of lying about me in these organisations, then how can you sit back and say that you love me? And the same for Amanda. You were told, Amanda, you're my twin sister. And your behaviour in the last 9 years makes me turn around and hate you. You're not going to change the fact that I actually hate you because of the last 9 years. The last 9 years happened. Now you have to live with the fact that I hate you because of the last 9 years. You have to live with the fact that you were given too many chances and you didn't do it. So you have to now live with the fact that your twin brother doesn't want to see you again because of the last 9 years. He hates your guts because of the last 9 years. you're going to have to live with that for the rest of your life because you made the choices that you did, which has now had a reaction from me that I hate you because of everything that's happened since 2015. That's what you have to live with. And I don't, that's not going to change. I mean, you know, well, there's no way to change that. Nothing will change that because the last 9 years happened. So you can't change the fact that the last 9 years happened. Now you have to live with it. I won't ever be in your life again. And as sad as that is, I've already mourned that loss of my twin sister in 2017, which was what was done to me. So I mourned that loss then. I can't believe this shit. I can't believe the fact that information. Okay, my last name is Fleming. My grandfather's Stanley Fleming. Even though he was an orphan, that's his name, Stanley Fleming. I can't believe that. Okay, I know the history of the surname, but I have made it perfectly clear that my dad's father's an orphan, so I don't know where he came from. He never knew his parents. So when I'm there back in 2006, and Rob Van VAN Erden got me details because he was from Holland and he's there he goes, oh, I know the Fleming last name. It's from these parts. It's Flemish. It's where Belgium meets getting information where Belgium meets France. It's not, you see it it's a Danish name. You'll see it in Denmark. You'll see it here. You'll see it in Germany. It used to be a 2-part name. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, his name, Van Erden, is a 2-part name. Some people drop the Van, some people drop the Von. And he said, Fleming, in history, if you have a look at it, the name itself used to be, whether it's been changed and so forth, originally it was Von Fleming. He said, I'm not lying to you. And that's the thing. Like when I first met him, which was with his boyfriend, who was a Lebanese guy that lived up on Cleveland Street. He doesn't live there anymore. And, when I said my last name's Fleming, and because he's from the area, he didn't believe me. I said, well, I literally showed him my driver's license. I said, my last name's Fleming with 2 M's. And he said, well, I know the name. And that's where that was in 2006. And I never, ever said that, oh, my dad's father's from here. I didn't, because that doesn't make any sense. I've always said my dad's father's an orphan and he was raised by Edith Kavanagh. That's what I've said. I've always turned around and said, but my dad's father's an orphan and he's raised by Edith Kavanagh in Botany Bay. I don't know my dad's father's parents. We don't know. The history of my dad's father stops with him. It goes as far back as my pop, Stanley Fleming. That's it. It goes Stanley Fleming, my dad, Mark Fleming, then me, Justin Fleming. And that's it. That's all the generations of that. That's it. And that's what I've said. I said, but however, the history of the name, the spelling of the name itself, I found that information. And it's actually even there on Encyclopedia. If you go and look up the history of it's not the friggin' ridiculous bullshit of, family crest of arms and all this bullshit. No, the history of the name itself. Now, this was brought up back in 2006. So in 2006, this was stated. However, it has only been twisted into something sinister since 2015. So 9 years later, and it's like, well, why didn't you bring this up 9 years, now almost 18 years ago? Why didn't you bring it up 18 years ago? Why are you bringing it up now? And the simple fact is to be a bully, to cause me damage, to be a bully is why you're doing it. You're doing it to cause disruption and hurt into my life, to be a bully. And that's the facts. So no, I've never said I grew up rich, but I have grown up with the experiences that I've grown up with. I've grown up with, like I said, I've grown up with thoroughbred hacks. I've grown up in the racing industry. I've grown up riding at Nationals and Royals. I've grown up competing at Olympic Park in the Royals. I've grown up competing at Moore Park in the Royals. I have ridden my horse around Moore Park. I used to ride my horse right down the end to the Battenborough Hotel, then come across and cut through the park and come back in. I did used to exit up where the exit was in Paddington and ride my horse around that area. I did. That's right. I did grow up playing soccer. Everything I've said, I have done, but I've had these organisations gaslight me for 9 years. And the same people that gaslighted me don't want to pay for the extreme damage that have caused me for 9 years. It's like, but you're the one that caused it. You caused it. So don't tell me you're not going to pay for it. You caused it. You caused the damage. And then to make up some those stuff like to do with trauma and all this shit, it's like, seriously, I was having lunch with my mother in 2016. Does it look like we had any trauma towards each other? You created the trauma because you people are these weird organisations and so forth that just want to create damage. Mum and I was having lunch at Watson's Bay Hotel in 2016. There's a photo of my mother. So you're not going to... Here's the other thing as well. People who have this sickly over closeness with their mother look at everyone else that they should be the same. I'm like, yeah, I'm not close like that. Like cuddling and kissing in all affection. Oh, this is like, oh God, mama's boy, please beware. I can't stand mother boys. My mother's hard corporate cold. That doesn't bother me. My grandmother was loving and affectionate. My great grandmother was loving and affectionate. I find very if my mother says things that are kind and polite and sweet, I'm like, what's wrong? It doesn't feel natural. Oh, dearest Justin. Oh, get the fuck over yourself, you did. I love you. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Seriously. Because we never had that relationship. And what the fuck's wrong with you? I don't need you to tell me you love me. What the hell is fucking wrong with you? Or because these organisations got involved since 2015. The hell? You were told in 2015 I've been lied about. Help me with a solicitor to correct it before these organisations caused too much damage to my life. Are you fucking shitting me? The mother I liked was that mother that was not what she is now, working for the frigging United ridiculous care bullshit. Get away from those freaks of people. Fuck me dead. What is wrong with you? You're turning into Robin Childs. What the fuck? I liked Mum, yeah, when Mum was working as a paralegal, when Mum worked for the law company, when Mum worked for Ian Chalbert, when Mum worked for Lyons Barnett Kennedy. Yeah, I used to love going into Mum's office when she worked for Lyons Barnett Kennedy, and her friend PK, the receptionist. Yeah. Adored PK. PK ended up living down the road from me when I lived in Hill Street. You know, I think she married a barrister. But seriously, we didn't have this closeness, and we didn't need this closeness. I don't need something like the weirdness that I look at Giovanni Consalvo has with his mother, Dawn Carpenter. Oh, it's freaking weird. What, do you want me to be on the phone to you every day crying? Oh, you have no idea. Oh, whinge bitch. Really? Well, you want that? Seriously, because I know what you would say, Carol. You'd be like, oh, grow up. Which is exactly what Giovanni Consalvo needed. He needed a decent parent to stop babying him because both his parents baby him. Oh, my son. Oh, my golden son. Oh, yeah, the fucking ice-smoking freak. Your golden son's a wanker. He needed someone to say, oh, grow up. Grow up, Giovanni. Wake up to yourself. Get a grip on fucking reality. He's got that many freaking mental health issues, Giovanni. Like telling people he was a carer. You can't tell me that's not a mental health issue. You fucking told people convinced people he was a carer, that he was doing things for me when I wasn't even in the country. You can't tell me that's not someone with deep mental health issues. Seriously, I'm in America. I'm going for a green card process. I'm in the US, and he's sitting in George Jacobs' office, bawling his eyes out about this, how bad it is. Justin's at home and getting doctor's notes so he can take March 2013 off work. You can't tell me this guy's got Senate. He may look polished up, whatever, but he's fucking insane. You can't tell me that's not insane. I'm overseas and he's telling people that I'm inside in my apartment or leaving my apartment, I'm depressed and suicidal and he can't catch up with them. Like he did to Snezana. That's what he told Snezana in March 20. You can't tell me that's someone that's in clear freaking mental health state. You cannot tell me. Like when I found out about that, I was like, "You're in, like," because George Jacobs wouldn't correct the information because he believed Giovanni because he said I had Giovanni in here in hysterics. He had to take March off work to look after you. I'm like, I wasn't in the country. I've just come back. You can't tell me he's a sane man to do that. You can't tell me he's sane that he convinced people he was a carer since 2009. That's a sane man. You can't tell me there's something not seriously wrong with the guy. That he has lied since I met him. I'm looking at this. This is bullshit. You can't tell me that he's there playing everybody against each other in my family, messaging my auntie, bitching about me to my auntie Marianne, then messaging me going, oh, well, you know what your mother's sister's like. Oh, Marianne, you know, she's greedy. She's got to have, oh, if Marianne was here now, I should have ordered this. Or, you know, you can't tell me. And then messaging Stephanie DeSalis about me, then coming back to me saying, when I'm there going, why is she turning up? And he's there going, I don't know, you've got all these low-life friends in your life, Justin. And I'm like, no, I don't. Why did Stephanie turn up? And then I find out he's text her. You can't tell me that's sane. You know, or then messaging Brett Aikenhead, some guy who I brought my dog from and was a free prostitute, and he did. Messaging Brett Aikenhead and then saying, Justin just wants the old Brett, the one he remembers in his life. And I'm like, I only met Brett in April 2015. So what the fuck was he playing at there? Even Brett Aikenhead texted him back and said, I don't believe a word out of your lying Italian mouth. You can't tell me that's the same guy to do that. And then to try to drag Brett Aikenhead in my life after he was telling all of my family on both sides that Justin's affiliating with these low-life scumbags of people. So he's telling both my sides of the family, but then he's ringing these people and saying to come over. And then they're coming over. I'm like, why are they turning up? And then he's there going, oh, I don't know, they're friends of yours. I'm like, no, they're not. You know they're not. Why do they keep coming over? But he was the one messaging people, and I can show you. I've got the text messages. You can't tell me that that's a normal, sane man. And everybody believes him. They just look at him like, oh, he's this wonderful character. We love Giovanni. I'm like, oh, I hope the guy goes to jail for fraud and forgery. He did forge my signature and he committed forgery. So I hope he goes to jail for it. Because he can't tell me that this guy is fucking normal after sitting with George Jacobs in February, early March back in 2013 when I'm overseas. And he's there going, I can't cope. And he's bawling his eyes out in hysterics saying he can't cope and telling George Jacobs that I'm at home and not leaving the apartment. Yet I was overseas in another country. You can't tell me that someone that hasn't got severe mental health issues. And he's had it his entire life, and it's because of his parents. You can't tell me that his parents aren't at fault because he's never had to be, taking responsibility of his actions. His father doesn't make him take responsibility. His mother doesn't make him because he's a golden child. He's sport, not in the way I am, with having, a good, open-minded life and a good upbringing where I've had different experiences that, like, he hasn't had that life. No, he's had a very weird community creepiness in country town Adelaide of he can't do anything wrong, spoilt life. Didn't have like where I was disciplined for being wrong or, speaking back or not using menace. No, and he didn't have a life like I had, which was very open and exposed and different experiences and so forth. No, but he's sport in other ways where he's never had to be held accountable. Like, I don't like his parents. Oh, God, yeah. Because they would never make him held accountable for his actions, and he's too old now. He's the golden child for over 50 years. Yeah, really. I used to get phone calls from his father. Like, his father did ring me and said, what's wrong with my son? Like, why is my son crying? I'm like, I haven't seen your son I didn't say to Sebastian, I haven't seen your son for 3 days. I'm like, Because as soon as he rang me and said his son was crying, I'm like, oh, fucking hell. Like, Giovanni thinks I'm stupid, but I know he smokes crystal meth behind my back and goes and gets fisted. And that's why I don't see him for days. Like, I barely saw him when we're together. He goes off with his fisting parties. He gets fisted in the ass. He takes telegraph poles in his ass. And fine, he wanted to spread shit around to my family. I'm telling the truth about him. He spread lies about me for years. He spread lies. I'm telling the truth. Yeah, he can sit on a fucking telegraph pole. It's like, throwing a sausage down the hallway, having sex with him. Seriously. It's like throwing a sausage down the fucking hallway. Didn't interest me at all. And to be able to do that, he has to smoke crystal meth. So Giovanni smoked crystal meth to take a telegraph pole on his ass. So then the come down was on a Tuesday. And next minute, I'm getting phone calls from his father. And I'm busy, off living my life. And he's there, want to know why his son's crying. I'm like, I haven't seen your son. So he's probably crying because he's off somewhere with whatever guys he was with, screwing around. He's a fuckwit. He deserves to go to jail for what he did. I don't care I don't care if you like him or not. The guy committed fraud and knew he did it. The guy committed forgery and knew he committed forgery, got away with it. I confronted him in 2015 and didn't stop committing forgery by forging my signature. Then in 2017, I find out that he still kept signing my signature 2 years after he was first confronted by me about doing it. And then he said he will stop. Then he continued to sign my signature into 2019 before he was fired from work for signing my signature. So he hasn't learned his lesson. He didn't learn his lesson. He was confronted by me, and I don't give a shit what these fucking wankers below me like Heidi and Frank Jones. I don't give a shit. They pissed me off since they fucking moved in here. I really don't care what they think about the whole situation with her busybody sticking her nose into it. I don't care. You might want to learn to mind your own goddamn fucking business. Or go back to New England where you're from. I really don't like these people. I really don't. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You want to stick your nose in someone else's business? I don't like it. You don't know their background and you know one side. That's what a lot of people have done in the last 9 years, have known one side. So this happened. The guy was confronted by me in 2015 about signing my signature on a document. He said that like he wouldn't, right? He kept doing this and I found it again in 2017. That's 2 years later. Okay. Then he was like, and I said, I wish you wouldn't. I'm trying to do this, but see, in the text message to me back to Giovanni, I'm sugarcoating it because if I say I was always walking on eggshells around Giovanni, which other people don't realize this, it was me walking on eggshells, not him. So even when I found out he signed my signature in 2017, I'm like, oh, I really wish you wouldn't. I'm trying to word it in a way that he wouldn't react. Okay? I was so scared to be around him all the time because the way he would just go off and throw things around and smash things, smash my furniture. So in 2017, I text back and say, oh, I really wish you wouldn't, we've, what would I say, we've identified or something like this. I was like, oh, I really wish you wouldn't. Like, the guy forged my signature and I had to message back and say, oh, I really wish you wouldn't so I wouldn't upset him. He broke the law and I'm sitting there thinking, I have to be careful how I message him back. That's not right. I have to be careful how I message the person who committed forgery back. That's what no one realizes. Or both sides of my family don't realize. So I'm there going, I really wish you wouldn't forge my signature. But then he kept doing it to 2019. So we're talking about, another 2 years after 2017. So 4 years after I initially found out he forged my signature and he was told, don't do it again. That's forgery. He kept doing it for another 4 years. So he kept forging my signature because no one made him held accountable. He didn't get arrested. Police did not arrest Giovanni for forgery. Like police should have arrested Giovanni for forgery. So instead of stopping forging my signature, He continued to forge my signature for another 4 years. This is not a man that's sane. Or this is a man that's a definitely con man, crook that is really good at getting away with it. And this is where I won't back down. I don't care. Don't care if we even talk to each other. I'm not going to be close to you. You did this behavior towards me and I'm the one paying for it. I'm sitting back going, no. You've got your little leftist organisations. You've got your little bullshit from all the times you scammed and told your social workers and your counsellors bullshit. You told counsellors bullshit lies. You told people like psychologists lies. You turned my life upside down. And when I told you, can you go and tell them the truth? This is damaging my life. You deliberately didn't do it. You can't be seen as a bad person. Oh, but I've already lied about you. If I don't go and tell the truth now, I'm going to look bad. That's meaning Giovanni's going to look bad. It's like, well, you lied. You lied. So, yeah, just, but he was happy to damage my life as long as he looked good. Happy to damage my life as long as he looked good. That's not someone that's sane.